Hey everyone, welcome back. And if it's your first time here, then hi, I'm Becca. Today I have basically a full face of new makeup. I know we just did one of these videos, but the spring launches are coming. There are a lot of new products on the market, and recently I've been fortunate enough to attend quite a few launch events and parties for different brands here in LA. So I have a lot that I'm excited to share with you. I was just at the Charlotte Tilbury event 2 days ago here in LA. They gifted me their new matte blush beauty wand in the shade Peach Pop, which I did say in my recent video of things I almost bought that I was very tempted by this. I also have the new Charlotte Tilbury highlighter. I have the new Milk Makeup setting spray. I have new brushes by Persona. I have a new YSL Lash Clash mascara. Quite a few new cheek products to pick from, and also the Urban Decay Quickie multi-use concealer, which is an extension of their Naked range. So a lot of stuff to play with here, so let's get right into it. You guys know I've been loving my Exa foundation again. I sort of reached for this in my stash and I've been using it a ton lately. And I realized I have this Exa primer, their Jumpstart Smoothing Primer, and I don't know if I've ever used it. I think it was one of those things that like I kind of forgot about. So I really want to see how these work together. I'm just gonna give this a good shake. It's very nice glass packaging with a pump. So this is $34 and it's a super silky blurring primer that creates a semi-matte canvas of possibility for every skin tone and every skin type. Okay, so that's actually perfect for me because I don't like matte, but I do like something smoothing and blurring. So this actually might be really nice, especially going into the warmer months. This is the consistency right here. It has like a lotiony feel to it. Feels really nice, actually. It's almost like a gel cream. I did my morning skincare. It's Sunday here, Oscar Sunday, so we're just hanging out at home and relaxing, but I just wanted to put on some makeup. This does just feel like a lotion. It is, it doesn't feel super silicone-y, like it's not puffy the way that super blurring primers can be. It just feels nice and comfortable and like lotiony on the skin. But it is giving me a bit of grippiness, which I like. Not sticky, but just a little grippy. So that does sort of set down. It doesn't feel greasy on the skin. It just feels, I mean, my skin feels moisturized, but it does feel like it is smoothed out. So like I mentioned, I want to pair it with the Exa foundation. This is not new, but I do have some new Persona Cosmetics brushes, and they have a base brush. Well, all of the brushes are double-sided. I think you can see here. This is their base brush, which has a base side and a concealer side, and they're both sort of rounded, very, very smooth, densely packed. I think these are gonna be really nice for blending. So I just wanna go in light with the base today. I'm just gonna use a pump of my Exa foundation in the shade 390 Alley. So if you're not familiar with Exa, they are the in-house brand of Credo Beauty, the retailer. I actually just went to the Credo opening of their second LA store. So they have one, I think, on 3rd Street. That's their first location. And they just opened a location in Larchmont. And it's super cute. It's a little bit smaller, but it does feel like a really intimate shopping experience. And if you've been to Larchmont, it's all super cute. It has that like quaint neighborhood feel, you know? They just carry some of the most interesting, like up and coming sort of brands. It's very LA, even though I don't think their first store was in LA. I think their first store was in New York, I'm not quite sure. But the new store is really nice. And I think Exa just has some exciting things happening, as does Credo. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. Like if you're in the area, it's just a really nice shopping experience. This brush is really nice because you can sort of like work in circles to blend a more sheer layer, or you can add coverage just sort of by tapping and buffing it out. I do feel like that primer is making the foundation feel kind of different. It's really interesting because the foundation does look really smooth, and sometimes, not with this foundation, but with some foundations, it can be hard to get a really smooth sheer layer. So especially with something that's a little more high coverage or anything above medium, sometimes it's hard to really spread out the texture without it looking streaky if you just want a very sheer layer, which is how I like to wear foundation. And I do feel like this is actually helping the foundation sort of glide over the skin, but it does feel more matte, and it looks more matte too. I can tell there isn't quite as much shine going on in the skin, especially for me because I'm combo and oily. So I think this is a really nice combo together, and I'm actually really glad I pulled this out, especially going into the warmer months, because it feels lightweight on the skin, but I can tell it's going to give my base products a little bit of longevity without pilling or doing anything weird. Next, I've got a couple of concealer, brightener, color corrector options. The first is the Half Caked Beauty Star Bright Liquid Highlighter. So this is actually sort of a brightening concealer. They say it's a liquid highlighter that effectively softens, blurs, and eliminates shadows with just one swipe. So it comes in a doe foot sort of format. This is the product. Gabby gave me this shade. I think it might be a little bit light for me, but I'm at my palest right now, so it could work. And the shade is Eternal Sunshine. Gabby also gave me this. They're the new Urban Decay Stay Naked Quickie Multi-Use Concealer in the shade 30NN, which I also think could be a little light for me, but we're sort of in the final months where I think I could make a shade like this work. So we might end up with like a super bright under eye, but let's see what happens. I think I'm just going to use this in the inner corner. Whoa. And the outer corner. That's very bright. It has a peachiness to it, which might help with the darkness under my eyes, but I'm just going to flip that base brush over and just use the concealer side to correct. Okay, this is actually shearing out really well. It's not as pigmented as it looked when I first applied it. That's actually really nice. I thought it might be too bright for me, but I think because it does sheer out, it almost is like I don't really need concealer on this side. This has no concealing, no color correcting. What do you think? Let me know. We have a visitor. This is Smidge, if you guys don't know. Say hi, Smidge. I actually, like, for a low makeup day, don't even feel like I need concealer over that, but you know, we're testing things out, so let's try the Urban Decay Quickie Multi-Use Concealer. This, I think, is very full coverage. I just swatched it on the back of my hand, and it's a lot of pigmentation. It seems very blendable, and it also seems like it gets kind of grippy once you start to blend it out, which makes sense because it's for up to 24-hour wear, which I would never do. It is meant to be like full coverage, but still lightweight. So I'm just going to take a little bit. I don't even feel like I need a lot on the inner and outer corner, and I'm going to buff that out with this brush. This is definitely a brightening shade for me. Yeah, I do think this is really high coverage. I don't think you need a lot of this, and I think this would also be a good concealer to wear all over the face if you're just a concealer person and you don't like foundation, because it has that coverage. I mean, you can really see the difference, I think. I never wear a really bright under eye. I just kind of like to go with my skin tone. So it's kind of odd for me to see myself with such a bright under eye on one side and then like natural shadow and pigmentation on the other side. I mean, there's definitely a time and place for this kind of brightness. It's not my everyday sort of thing. It's fun to try something different once in a while. I'm thinking maybe with this side, let's just go in with the concealer and not the corrector, just so we can see how the concealer performs on its own. So this shade, I mentioned Gabby gave me this, is described as light neutral. 30NN, light neutral neutral. I don't know why there's two N's. I would agree with that though. There's a bit of yellow, but there's a bit of peachiness in this too. And it's spreading out really nicely. Even that was maybe more concealer than I needed, so I'm actually just gonna blend it sort of into my foundation down the cheeks, just so it doesn't look too stark around my eyes. All right, she is very, very bright. I look very wide awake, which is nice. I do feel like it's a little bit, I don't know, I would go a little bit warmer if I were to go this bright around my eyes just so it wouldn't wash me out. But I think for now, That's good. I'm gonna stop there. All right, moving on to cheeks, I have the Pillow Talk, or the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wands. One of them is the new one. It's the Matte Beauty Blush Wand in the shade Pillow Talk Peach Pop. And the other one is not as new as this, but it's new to me. It's the Beauty Light Wand in the shade Pillow Talk 2 Medium. So I think I'm gonna go in with the blush first because I'm just super excited about this. Of course, I'm sure you all know these are the tube components. You pop the cap off and then there's an on-off like clicker thing, so you can open up the valve essentially that lets the liquid product through. And I'll show you the shade of this. Super fun. You do want to make sure that when you're storing these, you store them in the off position so the product doesn't dry out. I'm really excited about these because I do have some of the glowy blush wands and I really like Pinkgasm, but I do find that Peachgasm is a little bit metallic for my taste. So I'm excited to try these without the metallic sheen in them. I'm just gonna start out pretty lightly. So I'm gonna do 2 dots. Ooh, she's bright. I'm using my Half Magic Beauty, the kitten paw brush or bunny paw, something paw brush. And I'm just going to blend that out. Ooh, wow. That's blending out really nicely. Oh, wow. It's kind of like a puff of color. It blended out so quickly. I was not expecting that. It is called Peach Pop, but I do feel like there's, it's not quite as warm as you think it'll be when you first apply it. Wow, I really like that. This is gonna be such a nice shade for spring and summer. So you can see this side with blush, this side with no blush. I love it. I'm very surprised actually. And it does set down. It's not sticky. It's a very fluid formula. It's very thin. And once it's blended out, it does set down. And it is matte. There's no pearl or anything in it. See what I mean? It just has such a nice, like, watercolory blend. I think my fear when I first saw these was that the product was going to be so matte that it might not blend very well. But of course, leave it to Charlotte Tilbury to create a very elegant formula. I do think it's best when you're blending this formula to like bounce rather than to smear, just because you don't want to pick up the base underneath. And it gives you a really cloud-like blend. All right, I love that. I am gonna try the Pillow Talk highlighter next. This is the shade number 2, so I think there is one that's lighter than this, but let's see how these look together. Ooh, this is pretty deep. Actually, I don't know if that's gonna work with this cheek today. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a little coppery, and that's not really the direction I want to go in. Let me swatch the Peach Pop next to it. I do think they'll look really nice together, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for today. While I'm here, let me swatch Peachgasm and Pinkgasm next to each other so you can see the shade comparisons. So that's Pinkgasm, that's Peachgasm, that's Peach Pop, and that is Pillow Talk 2. I actually think Peachgasm and Peach Pop would look really nice together, but maybe I'll add that at the end once I have a better idea of what else I'm gonna do. Totally forgot, I have the Charlotte Tilbury Glow Glide Face Architect Highlighter. I did get to see all 6 of these shades in person, and they're really, really beautiful. Super refined, a gorgeous creamy highlighter. This is, I think, the 3rd deepest shade. So there's like an icier one, there's a champagne glow, and then this is gilded glow. So beautiful. Here's a better look at the compact. And here she is in all her glory. So you can see it's definitely a warm glow. It has that golden undertone, but I don't think it's too deep for me, and I think it's gonna look nice with the peach tones. I think it'll sort of bring out those warm tones. I have a BK Beauty 108 brush. It's actually like the perfect highlighting brush. I don't wanna go too intense, so I'm just gonna lightly tap the pan. I'm gonna put some product on the back of my hand and I haven't used a powder highlighter in a really long time, but I just want to sort of build up the glow. I'm really buffing it into the skin. Actually, let me swatch this for you. Here is Gilded Glow. This is going to look really nice on me, I think, in the summer. Right now it's more of a blush topper because it actually has more base pigment than I was expecting. So I'm just going to lightly buff that in. I'm almost going like over the blush rather than in a C shape around my face the way I maybe normally would. Okay, really nice formula, very buttery. I do think I need a shade lighter for like a true highlighter quality, but I think those two shades do look really nice together and you can see the glow right there. I'm just going to lightly set the center of my face with powder. I actually don't feel like I need powder all over because that primer really locked my base products into place. I'm just gonna powder also over my eyelids because I did sort of prime them with the Urban Decay concealer. And I do feel like because I used such bright concealers, I need a little bit of warmth back in the skin, so I'm just going to lightly bronze with the Jones Road bronzer that I tested in my last new makeup video. I've still been wearing this a lot. It's a very seamless bronzer. It's not overly pigmented. It's just really easy to use, sort of mistake proof. And I'm using the BK Beauty 103 brush, which is actually very similar to the Jones Road bronzer brush that they released this with. That brush is just in my makeup kit elsewhere in the house right now. I don't have a new eyeshadow palette or anything. I do have a single eyeshadow that I want to play with, but I just want to lay down like a quick little base. So I'm going into my Charlotte Tilbury Exaggerize palette. This is not new, but I just figured since we're doing Tilbury, this is a good sort of basic palette to pull out. And I'm using this matte shade just to sculpt the eye a little bit. Okay, continuing on the Charlotte Tilbury train, I was gifted the Pillow Talk Eyes to Mesmerize, their single potted eyeshadow. You guys know I love this formula. Exaggerize is my favorite shade, but I actually haven't tried Pillow Talk, and I think it'll be nice to keep sort of the fresh pinky theme in the makeup today. It looks really, really beautiful. It is the Pillow Talk shade. I always hate ruining the beautiful little pot, but here's a swatch of it. It's this gorgeous dusty rose. It is shimmery, but it's not metallic. It just has a bit of like golden pearl running through it. I'm going to take the Persona Eye brush. This has a smudge side on this side and a define side here, which is smaller. I'm just going for an all over application, so I'm going to take the smudge brush into the eyeshadow. I'm very familiar with this formula, and it's such an easy formula to use. It's like a moussey whipped cream formula, blends out so nicely. Just going to apply that everywhere, like all over the lid. I think this is a nice take on Pillow Talk. It's not too bright, so it doesn't read as like a pink necessarily on the eyes. It's more of like a pinky brown or like a beigey rose, a dusty beigey rose, which makes that shade really wearable. And I think it will flatter a lot of different skin tones. I don't know if it will show up on like the deepest of skin tones, but there are other shades in this range that I think are better suited for deep skin tones. But I really like the way this is blending into the eyeshadow. It's just a really easy one and done shadow, you know? And by the way, if you are curious, I do have a Charlotte Tilbury full brand review of everything I've tried from the brand that I will link below. I go through skincare, makeup, everything I've tried. So if you want to learn more, I'll definitely link that video. It's nice, right? It's just a soft wash of color, very Charlotte Tilbury. I am going to dip into this matte again in the Exaggerize palette and just blend out the edges of this shadow. And then maybe for a little extra glow, I'll flip this brush over into this pearly shade and add to the inner corner just a little brightness. So here is the eye look close up Just really easy, but also with a really nice effect. Low effort, high impact. I am really excited to try this YSL mascara. I don't think it's new, it's just new to me. They sent it over, the Lash Clash Volume Extreme Mascara. This is the shade Black. So I'm just going to curl my lashes real quick and we'll get into this. Here is the mascara. It's very chic. It has the YSL logo. It's kind of like 3D embossed. And this is a volumizing mascara. It's not waterproof, but it's supposed to be smudge resistant. And it does have quite a big bristly wand. For me to give this mascara any shot of holding a curl, you know, I use my Peri Para Ink Mascara Fixer just as a primer. This doesn't add anything, it just helps my lashes hold a curl. And then let's get into it. This is a big brush, but I do find that the tapered end on brushes like this helps with my smaller eyes. It's not too wet of a formula actually, right off the bat, and I like that. And even though I like plasticky separating ones, there's a lot of space between these bristles that's actually giving me good separation through the lashes. Kind of surprised because volumizing mascaras can sometimes lead to clumpiness, you know? Okay, wait. I cannot believe how buildable this mascara is. I've been sitting here for like a couple of minutes just building and building, and it's giving me a ton of volume and length and separation. So this is one eye with mascara on, and this is one eye with no mascara. And you know, I have teeny tiny lashes, so this is a big deal for me. I've had a couple of good mascara finds lately, and I think this is gonna be one of them. I'm generally wary with volumizing mascaras because my lashes are so fine, I really can't overload them. But something about this brush allows you to build without over applying, and definitely does not clump up because of the spaces between these bristles. Okay, I got an amazing application on this eye. You can see the volume, the curl, the definition. It's definitely a va va voom sort of lash. And I also feel like even though this wand has really big bristles, it's somehow still able to pick up like the fine baby lashes. So it doesn't just apply to your longer lashes, it applies to your smaller lashes and gives them some lift and definition as well. So I'm impressed if you can't tell. I really like this. Just filling in my brows with my Milani brow pen. All right, that's the eyes done. I have a new shade of the Rose Ink Satin Lipsticks in the shade Enigmatic that I've really been liking, and I think it will go with this look. I am gonna line my lips really quick with the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat in Pillow Talk. Believe it or not, I don't think I've tried the original Pillow Talk. I've tried the Pillow Talk Medium, the number 2, but I don't think I've tried the original, and it just makes sense with the pinky look. So just gonna do a quick line. I don't want a ton of definition, just a little bit. This lip pencil is still such a good formula this many years later. It's just creamy, but it also really sets down. It's nice. So I have tried this lipstick and I like it. It is, I would say it's more matte than satin personally, and it is a high pigment lipstick, but it's a gorgeous shade, and I've also worn this on the cheeks, and it's a beautiful like monochromatic lip and cheek moment if you're into that. It does have a square tip, which is not my preference when it comes to lipsticks, which is why I do feel like I need a lip liner with this, because it's hard to get a symmetrical lip line with the bullet being straight across. I don't know if that's just me, but here's the shade. You can see she's full pigment. That was just one swipe. I mean, I guess it's not like a powdery matte. It's more just that it's kind of a stiff formula. It's not your like melty, creamy satin. It's definitely a long wearing satin though, because it is so pigmented, but it's also thin, but it's stiff at the same time. You don't get like a thick layer across your lips, but it really feels like it's like locked onto your lips. It's gonna be there all day long. I'm gonna finish things off with the new Milk Makeup Pore Eclipse Matte Setting Spray. So this is an extension of their Pore Eclipse line. I love their Pore Eclipse primer, as you guys know. I've used this a couple of times and it really locks in your makeup all day long. It's slightly mattifying, but it's not a powdery matte. So I think one tip that I've heard from the Milk Makeup team is that you could actually spray your sponge. Let me show you. If you only wanted to mattify like the center of your face, you could spray your sponge, and look at this nice mister. It's very elegant. You could spray your sponge, let it absorb, sort of work it into the sponge, and then you can tap over your T-zone or around your under eyes. Don't press hard because you don't want to pick up any product. You just want to lightly mattify in particular areas if you're going for that. And that's one way that you can lock in certain areas of the face, or like around the nose, parts that get maybe a little cakey or oily or move around. I'm just gonna do an all over mist because it works for my skin type. It's a really nice companion to their Hydro Grip Spray, which is more hydrating, moisturizing. If you want dewy skin, go for this. If you want long wear, go for this. I was shocked when I went into the Milk Makeup Studios last week to try it before the launch. I did have a long day ahead of me that day and I just tried it on. Got home, my makeup had not budged at all. I haven't had this experience with a setting spray in a while. So it just really, and all of the pigment on my face, like the blush, bronzer, everything, completely intact. It was wild. So I have very, very high hopes that a lot of people will enjoy this setting spray, especially for long days, special occasions, and especially if you have oily skin going into these warmer months. So here's a final look at the makeup. I don't think there's anything here that I didn't like. I'm actually really surprised. It was a little bit more full coverage, a little bit more of a long wear base routine than I was expecting, but I actually think the Exa foundation is gonna be great going into summer. I think the brightener was super effective, the half-caked brightener, this one. And I was also really surprised by the pigmentation of this concealer. I would actually love this in a shade that's closer to my natural skin tone, just because I think it's the kind of concealer I would like to wear all over. But yeah, very impressed. I did forget to tell you guys that it has a doe foot applicator. This is more than half an ounce of product, and it also has a little brush on top. I probably won't use it, but you know, it's one of the perks of the packaging, so I just wanted to mention that. The matte Pillow Talk blush wand, what a hit. I think this shade is so stunning. It looks just as vibrant now as when I applied it, especially with the setting spray. I just know it's going to be like a perfect combination. And the only thing that wasn't like a total hit was the Charlotte Tilbury highlighter, but I think it's partly because it wasn't my correct shade. This is a little bit deep for my skin tone right now, so I feel like if I had gone a shade brighter, I would be able to get a better sense of the texture and the sheen across the skin. But it did feel really elegant, and I am optimistic that if I did have the right shade, it would have a more like blingy effect on my skin, you know? Not surprised at all that I really enjoyed the Pillow Talk Eyes to Mesmerize, because I do love this formula. However, it's not going to trump my favorite shade in this formula, which is Exaggerize. I've talked about that a ton. I love it so much. And the YSL mascara, what a sleeper hit. I was not expecting this. I looked it up and it definitely doesn't seem new. I think they're just re-promoting it, and I don't know why I hadn't heard of it before, but it's fantastic. I'm very, very optimistic about how this is gonna work for me, and I'm gonna keep using it and I'll report back. And the Persona brushes were great. They're very soft, they're affordable. I think they're a great synthetic affordable option, and I especially liked the base brush. I think this is gonna be really travel friendly. You've got the foundation end on one side, concealer end on the other, but these are also great multitasker shades. I would use this for cream bronzer, cream blush, highlighter. I mean, it's just a perfect, like, sort of do-it-all kind of brush. So that's everything for me today. I am gonna go hang out. I'm gonna watch the Oscars. I am rooting for all the Asians, everything everywhere all at once. I also really liked Banshees of Inisherin. So good. And I enjoyed Tar a lot too. But anyways, I'm gonna stop because I've been blabbing for a while. But I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, let me know. And I hope that you'll subscribe if you did enjoy and hang out with me again in the next video. So I'll see you then. Bye.